There's definitely one common trait that I see among entrepreneurs, including myself, and it is an attraction to bright, shiny new things to learn. Things like frameworks, formulas, strategies, tools to help get the job done, to accomplish that next goal. And recently, I was watching a video from Alex Hormozy, and just in a passing statement, he threw out this one liner. And I immediately went to my journal and I wrote it down. He said this. He says, "We need to be reminded more than we need to be taught." Now, this resonated with me at an incredibly deep level because recently I've been reminded of a lot of things that used to work incredibly well, that had led to incredible success. I'm talking about there was one year I made $750,000 as a solopreneur just simply because my wife and I decided that we wanted to build our dream home. We put ourselves on the line and said, listen, in 9 months, we'll have an extra $62,000 after taxes above and beyond what we already have in all of our expenses. We're going to do this. And then I'm like, okay, how do I do it? And I went and implemented frameworks and formulas and tools and strategies that I knew would work. And I repeated them over and over again. And over the course of 12 months, made over $750,000 in my business. The fun part is that I have the ability to do that over and over and over again. But over the years, I got very satisfied with where things were financially in my business. I got very satisfied with the flow of income. I got very satisfied with the number of clients that I was currently serving. And as a result of that, the things that I was doing back then, I had created a different business model. I'm like, okay, before my business model was this whole concept of I'm going to do a course every other month. So for 4 weeks, I'm going to serve everybody who purchased that $2,000 course. And then in the month in between those two courses, I'm going to be marketing like crazy so I can make sure that the next session the following month is filled. And I had that on rinse and repeat over and over again. And I was incredibly successful for nearly a decade of doing what was called podcasting A to Z at the time. The thing is, though, is eventually I shut all of that side of my business down. I went into recurring revenue. I had my next level mastermind. I had a handful of other recurring one on one coaching clients. And as a result of that, most of my clients were signing on for a minimum of a 1 year coaching and or mentoring and or mastermind relationship. And as a result of that, many of those people renewed year after year after year, some of them between 4 to 6 and going on 7 years now. So I had recurring revenue and the need to get out there and use those old tools, those old formulas, those old frameworks. They had fallen out of use in my experience. And one of the things that I noticed is that when it came time, it's like, wow, okay, things have shifted a little bit. And over time, some of those people who I'd been working with over the last several years, or after the first year of one on one mentoring, they're ready to go and invest in some other areas of their education and their growth. And so now it's like, hey, it might be a good time for me to go and attract some new clients and to onboard some new members in the mastermind. And at that point, I was introduced to a bright, shiny new framework, a bright, shiny new strategy, a brand new approach. It was called the Prosperous Coach Method for creating clients. All right. And when I learned and discovered that, I went all in to the exclusion of everything else that I've ever learned in the past. I went all in on the Prosperous Coach. Now, I will tell you, it was incredibly successful. It was an incredible run. The only thing is, though, is there are some things that I adopted as a mindset, as an approach that Looking back, where it was a mistake. Now, if you want to know about that, go to the episode right before this. It's titled Three Online Business Mistakes I've Made Over the Last 3 Years. I'm not going to rehash that episode. It's the episode right before this. I encourage you to check it out. So, one of the things that I noticed is that, okay, this is amazing. This strategy works. However, there are some benefits to the old way that I used to do things that allowed things to be a little bit more evergreen, a little bit more of a consistent flow of potential new clients being introduced to me at all times with less direct time, effort, and energy required. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to some time, effort, and energy put into the work that I do. However, there was more work to be done. Given how much of a flow and how much of a natural expression of who I am the old way was, and I'm talking about the traditional content marketing, me creating some content, putting it out to the world, being introduced to people who are looking for that information, then introduced to me and say, wow, I'd like to work more directly and have private access to this Cliff Ravenscraft guy. And I benefited for that for so many years. So I'm here to tell you that I'm one of those entrepreneurs who oftentimes is drawn to seeking out new tools, new techniques, new frameworks, new formulas to help me accomplish my goals. And the thing is I like to learn. I am absolutely committed to a life of unceasing personal and professional and spiritual development. I'm absolutely committed to it. I love to learn. So please hear me. I am not here to tell you that I suggest that you stay away from learning new formulas and frameworks. By all means, learn them. But understand that if you are in a situation where you kind of need to make some things happen, you're at a place where you'd like to see some sales come in. You're at a place where you'd like to see some results sooner rather than later. Well, here are three different drawbacks to being consistently drawn to the shiny objects instead of implementing what you already know. Here is the first drawback: investing time in learning something new often delays immediate action, potentially pushing results back even further. You see, when you're learning something brand new, you've got so many different aspects of this. You might need to acquire a new skill. You might need to implement a new organizational strategy. You might have to build out a whole new pipeline of this or that. It may require that you invest 40, 60, 80 hours of uninterrupted, devoted time over the course of the next few weeks before you actually see any results. I'm talking about any results. So this is drawback number one. You typically are delaying immediate action that could be taken that would get you to your goal sooner rather than later. By the way, there's still value in learning the new tools on the side, but not at the expense of taking immediate action. That's the drawback number one. All right, drawback number two: I may not have fully executed the strategy that I had intended to implement previously. Now, what I mean here is that if you're like me, I've learned lots of formulas, lots of frameworks, and I've implemented bits and pieces. I'll give you a perfect example of this. About 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I started reading .com Secrets. I think it's Russell Brunson is who wrote that book, and he was talking about your value ladder. And I'm like, wow, okay, I have the resources to build out my value ladder. And if you don't know what a value ladder is, it's kind of like, do you have the opportunity for people at various different levels to engage with you and your products and services? So for me, I had high ticket offers. So I had my 20,000 or 24,000, $25,000 high ticket offer. I had my $12,000 high ticket offer. and I had a handful of 2,000 plus offers. But these are more for people who are either super next level entrepreneurs or even elite entrepreneurs. They've been out there, they've been doing business for many years. They're just ready to take things to the next level. They're ready to financially invest at that level. And when it comes to the people who are consuming my content, that's about somewhere around 5 to 7% of my audience. All right. And then there's only a percentage of those where right now might be the right time for them to invest with me. And so the great news is that with a high ticket offer, you can benefit from immediate cash influx from clients. So a single sale can make a big difference financially on the income side of things, which is really nice. However, when it comes to content marketing, content creation, and generating income from your overall audience, there's a number of people who might be better served and able to invest at lower levels. So, do you have a $500 course? And I'm like, okay, I do have some. I can make those immediately available. Okay, do I have like a $149 course? And do I have a $49 this? And do I have a $10 a month option or something like that? And I began to say, okay, let me pause what I'm reading in this book and let me go and fill in my value ladder. And so I began doing that process. And then I read a couple of other things where he's talking about, okay, create your pipelines so you can see what light leads to what. I can't remember what they were going. It might have been like, outline your funnels or something like that. There was a language that was being used, and I went in and I went and taught myself workflow charts. I was looking at Miro or something like that, and I looked at another couple of tools, and I started to draw little boxes of each of the things and arrows of what draws to what and where do the people go in the system. And I created flow charts. And so I got to that place, and then I got distracted somewhere along the ways and began to focus on some other things. And I stopped working on that book. I stopped working on implementing anything further from that book. Since then, my my friend Deacon Bradley, he's like, Cliff, you should get this book called The Lynchpin by Russell Brunson. This right here is amazing. And so I went and got that. By the way, I've had this book for 6 months, haven't started it yet. And the reason why is because there's so many other things that I haven't done from Russell Brunson's .com secrets book. I'm like, let me finish that up. But there's still other things. Here's the thing. So I haven't fully yet into it. It doesn't make sense for me to go and try the next thing if I haven't yet uh, fully implemented what I already started. All right. That's the key here. Drawback number 3 is this: in nearly every scenario where I have gone in search of a new formula, a new framework, a new tool, a new strategy to implement so that I could achieve my goal, in almost every single scenario, I have already achieved results that I desire using a strategy that is both already familiar to me and that is readily available for me to implement right now. That's right. I don't need the new tool. I just need to remember that there was something that worked years ago that somehow I forgot all about. I mean, sure, some of these new tools, some of these new frameworks might be a little bit more passive down the road, but there's a learning curve. And there's some things that have yet to be implemented, and it's delaying immediate results. So sometimes I need to be reminded, not be taught something new, but reminded of the things that already work. All right. Here are a couple of questions to consider. This is something that I've convinced myself that I need to do. When I'm attracted to a bright, shiny new formula, framework, strategy, tool, whatever, this is a question. First question: have I given up too quickly on previous strategies before fully understanding them and making the necessary adjustments for their success? That's it. Have I done that? Before I pick up this new book, have I finished what I started on a previous shiny object? All right. And then the next question to consider: am I investing in this approach at the expense of taking immediate action on another method that I know is effective and that I already know how to do? And like I said before, in almost every scenario, in every situation, when I ask the question, the answer is almost always yes. And the fun part is it's not a conscious decision that I've been ignoring it. I just forgot. I'll give you an example of this. I was recently thinking about my next level coaching program. Been running this for the last couple of months. Finally got around to creating a sales page for it. It's amazing. This program that I'm doing every single week, really helping people figure out the art and business of building a coaching business. By the way, if you're interested, head over to cliffravenscraft.com. Up in the nav menu, it says, "Are you a coach?" Click on that. Or I think it's I think I have a unique a URL. Let me just try this URL real quick. I want to confirm it before, since I'm not going to do any editing. Full, let's see here. It's going to be professionalcoachingpath.com. Let me see if that works. Yes, it does. All right. Shock. Awe. Okay. Professional coaching path. If you are on the professional coaching path, go to professionalcoachingpath.com. It's a terrible URL unless I actually change the name of my program from Next Level Coaching Program to the Professional Coaching Path. I don't know. Anyway, I'm making stuff up as I go. But anyway, if you go there, it's an incredible program, and I wrote down on my to-do list one day, because I just heard somebody mention something in passing in one of my mastermind groups in the Green Room Mastermind, and I wrote down, start running Facebook ads to the Next Level Coaching Program sales page. Hmm, sounds like a pretty good idea. Sounds like a shiny new object, is what it sounds like. See, when it comes to that, there's a learning curve that is required. Going in and teaching myself Facebook ads would require that I learn how to use and implement that strategy. Now, don't get me wrong, I could hire somebody and invest some time and money into having somebody do that for me. But even still, I would have to oversee that person, and I would also want to evaluate the results that are coming from it. There would still be some time, effort, and energy. Now, again, I very well may end up running some paid ads by the end of this year. But if I ask myself the questions, am I doing this at the expense of something else that I already know that works? The answer to that question, yes. All right. Here are the proven methods that I already know that are available to me. Number one, I could create an email opt in incentive that coaches would definitely sign up for. So, for an example of this, I use Notion quite a bit. If you haven't heard of Notion, you could check it out, notion.so. It is an incredible platform, and I've learned how to build my own custom CRM, my client relationship management software. So instead of, I'm already using Notion for all of my note taking and all of the other documents and all this other things. I wanted to have access to a place where I could easily find each of my clients, that I would have access to their phone numbers, emails, and all sorts of other data, links to their podcast, YouTube channel, details about who their wives are, who their spouse is, who their kids are, what their anniversary dates and birth dates are, all the stuff. These are things that I would want to know. And so in the scenario here, I wanted to have the ability to log in and search for that information. I wanted to be able to have follow-ups, so where if hey, this person said that in 2 weeks reach out to me, I'll be ready to move forward on this. I like 2 weeks later, this pops up into my system, and immediately I'm reminded to take action on that. I wanted to have a CRM. Now, I know that I could go and invest in HubSpot and Salesforce and all these other tools, I'd have a learning curve there. But those tools can get relatively pricey once you hit a certain threshold. And that's what happens with a lot of people that I've seen is that they start out pretty small and they get in on those low cost priced options, and then when they hit a certain threshold of contacts in their system, then all of a sudden the price really jumps up, and at that point you're pretty much invested. You got so much of your information, you got so much of all this stuff in there that yeah, I think I I have to pony up and pay this ridiculously high monthly subscription free fee. I can't be without this software. And so that's how they get you. All right. So, and by the way, it makes perfect sense for certain businesses where with every new contact, there's a significant level of profitability. But when it comes to coaching and building a coaching business, is a lot of clients aren't ongoing, sustained, recurring revenue for each of these clients. This is somebody that works with you for a couple of months, maybe a year or two. But the average coaching relationship is, what, 2 to 5 years at times, and you often will have a lot of people who you're nurturing relationships where it could take anywhere between days, weeks, months, and sometimes years while somebody is working towards becoming a client. And so over time, you could literally build up a large database of hundreds, maybe even thousands of potential clients who have not yet paid you. And that's the reason why a lot of coaches have not wanted to invest in those other tools. And not just coaches, but other various businesses. So, I designed my own personal CRM using database functionality inside of Notion. Now, I've been showing this off inside of the Next Level Coaching program, and guess what? Every single one of them want to know. How did you set that up? Can you teach me how to set that up? This has been a consistent question from every coach who's ever caught a glimpse of my custom personalized CRM. People are like, whoa, wait a second. By the way, sometimes people who are just my coaching client, and then I do a screen share, and then I quickly search something under their name. I say, hey, let me go back to that one note that I sent you a couple of weeks ago, and I share my screen with them, and they're like, what system is this? So, guess what a perfect email incentive would be? A tutorial on how I built my own custom CRM for my coaching business. Now, I could either set that up for a free email opt-in, or I could set that up for a, hey, for 25 bucks you can learn how I did this, or what. There's a lot of different pricing options, but all of them would be a great incentive for someone to sign up for that thing. And it tells me, hey, I'm building a coaching business. I'm in the coaching industry. I would love to learn how to build a CRM. I'd love to see how you did it. And so I know that this is something that I could do. Now, have I done it up to this point? No. But am I going to be doing it probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks? Absolutely. That is going to be a focus of mine. All right. Next, I would then create a compelling and nurturing email sequence. So once somebody has signed up for that tutorial, now they're going to get an email maybe once every 2 to 3 days with valuable additional insight related to the business and the art of coaching. And eventually, let me see, do I have that in here? It's eventually down here somewhere. I'll get to my mind immediately wants to go to the note that's at the end. The next thing that I could do is I could be creating compelling content for my various podcast productions that I have: the Cliff Ravenscraft Show, Cliff's Notes on Profitable Coaching, the podcast Answer Man, and any other number of podcasts that I could launch on any other topic. And there will be many of those additional topics and additional podcasts coming soon from Cliff Ravenscraft. So I could create all of this additional podcast content and put it out there that would attract the attention of coaches and give them this incentive. I already know how to do that. It comes naturally to me. I also know how to get myself booked on other people's podcasts. without even having to pay for it. Now, that is a strategy that's uniquely available to me, given the fact that I've helped more than 40,000 people in the world launch a podcast. So I have some pretty incredible connections, but I can get myself booked on other people's podcasts where their target audience are coaches. That's already available to me, and I could promote that same email opt-in. And then I could continue to add value to these coaches and have them respond to these calls to actions. Now, here's what I was going to get to. Invite coaches to attend a single session of the next level coaching program as my guest. Or, like I've done very recently on my email newsletter, people who are on my email newsletter recently, I said, hey, here's what's going on. I have this program. It's called the Next Level Coaching Program. Here's a link to the sales page that tells you all about it. By the way, you could join me for one single session for only $25. And this has worked incredibly well. People are responding to it. By the way, each person that responds to it, guess who they are? They're coaches or interested in building a coaching business, a prospect, a potential client for this program. So these are things that I already know to do and I'm already beginning to implement. And so the whole idea of doing Facebook ads, running it to the sales page, that has been pushed off way into the future, several months down the road, if then, because I need to focus on the things that I've done before that I absolutely know for a fact will work and fully implement that. And then even before I get to the Facebook ads, I want to go back and even before I get into this linchpin book from Russell Brunson, I want to go back to .com secrets. I want to start the book over again. I want to listen through and I just want to actually pick up where I left off in those strategies. You see, often what I need to do is take action right now on what it is that I already know. And that's really what I wanted to share with you. All of that because just in passing, Alex Hormozy said this: we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught.